This next technique is starting with one of my favorite techniques to teach beginner students. It's called Genske nage. It's a basic takedown and it's a basic off balancing technique. I think I show this in my video on kazushi, on off balancing. I think I do, but either way, as a standalone technique, it's a great technique, and you're going to see there's a lot of ways that we can improvise in this move, and just a lot of cool strategies in this technique. So let's do it. So we can do these techniques off of a punch or off of a grab of a gi. So Eli is not wearing a gi right now. He's just has the third heaven shirt, which is the old school third heaven shirt, by the way. That's very cool. How old is that shirt?
At least 7 years.
7 years old. Wow, we don't make that particular style anymore. That's very cool. So Eli with the old school shirt doesn't have a gi on today. So instead of doing these techniques from a grab on the gi, I'm going to do them off a punch. But one thing about jujitsu, ninjutsu, grappling, everything can be done with a gi, without a gi. It's not really different. Okay, it's not that much different at all. So I could still grab his wrist and the back of his head to enter into these throws, but I'm just going to go off of a punch. So Eli here, I'm going to have you go left leg forward. There's going to be a reason for that leg switch in a second. And you're going to just keep that left leg forward as you throw a wild right hand punch at me, and I'm going to put my hand out to block. Okay, so now a couple little secret things in here. As you put that hand out to block, you can begin that block with an eye scrape. So ready? Eye scrape. Oh, you see what just happened right there? For those of you guys who are like, if you like mixed martial arts, there was a fight with Randy Couture and Vitor Belfort a long time ago. And Randy Couture was really picked to win that fight. It was a UFC fight. And Randy came out with a big wild punch, and Vitor went like this, and he scraped his eye and like ripped his eye. And it should have been a no contest, but they called Vitor the winner. But imagine if that happens on accident and everyone feels bad it happened on accident. Imagine if you're trying to do that to somebody, how much easier it's going to be. So it can start with an eye scrape and then a block. Or it can just be the block. Okay, now I'm going to enter into my takedown. So when I enter in for this particular move, I'm going to take 2 steps. One step is going to be in between my opponent's legs, so in between Eli's legs. The other step is going to be to the outside of his legs. Okay, let's turn this way a little bit just so they can see in the video. So now I'm here. Now, Genske nage, it means to throw a rock, okay? I lift the arm here like this, and I take this hand and I lift here. This is what the throw gets its name from. It's almost like I'm throwing something, okay? Now, it's a really easy fall. It's an easy fall, Eli, okay? It's a very easy fall. But you don't have to throw. You can just have your partner feel the off-balancing motion. Just, you feel how you're off-balance, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing we're learning to do off-balancing. I think I mentioned that I showed that already in my video on kazushi off-balancing. But here we're going to do the whole series. So that punch comes, we'll just stand right here. Block, I step in 1, 2. Okay, now to execute the throw, I pull and I launch, and it's just going to make him fall right there. Okay, perfect. Before we filmed this video, we were actually talking about students getting thrown in class and how sometimes it can, cause a really good student to have a really bad day. So you have to be very cautious with these throws with your students. When I do my classes, we'll often have people enter in and go like they're going to do the throws, and then I'll look around the room. And if I see people who I know is going to have a bad day if they get thrown, I'll have them throw somebody and I won't have them get thrown, right? It doesn't necessarily make us good martial artists or make us tough to get thrown over and over again, especially if you're dealing with someone who's a little older or maybe they have some prior injuries. We have to be really cautious with these throws. This is one of the reasons why the break falls that we showed at the beginning of this series is so important, so that you understand how to fall. But even when you know how to fall, it still can be serious impact on somebody. I had a good wrestler come in the other day, real good high-level wrestler, and I explained to the whole class that you don't have to throw. And he goes to his partner, he said, "Hey, is it okay if I throw you?" And his partner was like, "Yeah, you can throw me." And I was about to stop it, and before I knew it, wham! That dude hit the ground so hard. And thankfully, he didn't cancel his membership or anything, but it's a good training if you are an instructor, or maybe you're training with one of your kids. If you're training with one of your kid's probably going to be okay getting thrown. It's you that might not be okay. So you got to be cautious on this, right? So here we go. Genske nage. The punch comes on here. I step in 1, 2. Okay. The name again gets us name from here. Throwing the rock. If I keep his arm up like this, pulling towards me, and pulling upwards, it more off balances him. If I bring his arm low, you don't feel that off balancing as much, do you, Eli? But if I bring it here, you feel a lot more off balancing. Okay?
Yeah.
There's also a ton of submission holds that can come right here. You feel your arm jacked up right there. There's a straight arm bar. There's so many things from here. It can go on and on. I love this lesson. But now, let's just talk about making this Genske Nage move limitless and all the things that we can do here. So, from this position, I block and I come in. One thing is all I'm doing is pulling and launching and hoping he trips over my leg. But I got to be honest, if you're going against someone who's a good wrestler, they've got good base, good stability, it's going to be harder to pull this throw off like this. But I can lift this leg here, so I can lift it and make the throw. So we call that uchimata in Japanese. So it's an uchimata throw. Is it okay if I throw you? I'll throw you lightly.
Yeah.
So I come here, I lift, throw. So in that one, I'm lifting my leg, which is lifting his leg and throwing him. Now, okay, check this out. If I lift that leg and they don't fall, they only have balance on one leg. So now we can attack that other leg. So when I'm here, if I'm lifting here and he's not falling, I can attack the other leg. One thing I can do is I can step and drive to make him fall. Let's come back this way and do that again. So we're here. When I lift, I can step through and drive to make him fall. Oh, and I love that throw, you guys. Another thing that we can do is if I lift here, I can step through and take that leg out, like that. I'm not getting a big lift on that leg, but you could lift that as well. So I could lift here, and then I could come across and lift again here to throw him. Now what I just did right there is I didn't throw him that time. I just showed how I could do it. You could feel that if I needed to, I could throw you.
Yeah.
You don't always have to throw your partners, right? Let's take it a little further. I can ankle pick from here. So this is more of a wrestling move, but from this position here, I can drop down and catch his ankle and ankle pick him. Oh, sorry, buddy. So there's an ankle pick right there. It's kind of endless, all the things we can do off of that off balancing. But one move I want to show that I oftentimes do if they don't start with a punch. One thing that I'll do is sometimes, and because we don't have a gi, I'm just going to grab him here like this. I grab the back of his neck and I grab here. I'll turn him this way and I'll foot prop him here. So I can throw somebody here. This is a very weird break fall, Eli. Okay?
Okay.
So I'll kind of just let you go, and then you'll break fall with this arm, and I'm going to let you go. So it's here. Sorry for the weird break fall on that one. Okay, the foot prop. I've caught a lot of people in this foot prop. I've caught a lot of people training mixed martial arts or Thai boxing when I have like a head tie up and you're throwing knees and all of a sudden foot prop, I'm right there. But what I like the foot prop for in this particular series is when you don't throw them, the reason they don't fall is because they have to check their base, they have to check their balance, and their balance is all off for a second. And so when I foot prop Eli and his balance is off for a second, and then I can come back in and hit these throws much easier. So if I'm not going off of a strike, I'm usually starting with that foot prop and then applying the same throws we just did. All right, that's some really good knowledge on a real basic forward throw. Let's practice. This next throw is called Oogari. It's very easy and it's really powerful. I've got a story about this throw. In the state that we live in the state of Wisconsin. Well, at least I do. He lives in Minnesota, but I'm in Wisconsin. There's been one death in a grappling tournament that I know of, and it was because of this throw. Because when you get thrown with this, and this was a long time ago, I was there though. I was at the event when it happened. I didn't know the guy died. I saw him get taken away, but I didn't know he died. It was many, many years ago. It was at a judo tournament. But this throw, you fall back with such force, sometimes you just can't stop your head from bouncing off the mat. And this person got thrown so hard, and his head just hit the mat so hard. Even understanding a break fall, even having a nice soft mat was not enough to save this particular person, so it's a really sad story. I don't tell that story to scare anybody, but I just tell that story so that people understand that techniques can be dangerous. It's really important that you practice them with caution. I was thrown with this throw one time. A guy came in kind of for a challenge match, and he threw me with this. My head bounced off the mat. Man, I thought I was dead, but then I armbarred him. When we hit the ground, I armbarred him. But I don't remember too many grappling matches. I've had so many, but I remember that particular day. Anyways, what's going to happen now is If Eli had a uniform on, a gi on, I might grab his gi and force him to step forward. See how I just took that step? Or if he doesn't have a gi, I'm going to hold the wrist, I'm going to hold the back of the head, I'm going to force him to step forward. So if he brings that leg forward, that's what I'm going to attack this leg, okay? For this particular drill, we can also do it as a punch, and the punch would work if they step forward on the punch, which is a mistake to step forward on the punch, but let's say he punches and he steps forward, and I'm here, like this. Notice I stepped off at a 45-degree angle for this one. Now I come in here like this. I'm going to be real close on this one. I'm going to go hip to hip, or what I like to say belt to belt, okay? Now from here, I'm going to catch his leg here right above his ankle, okay? And I'm going to bring my leg up as I bring my head down, and that's going to make the throw. Now, the higher I lift my leg and the lower I bring my head down, the more power we're going to have in the throw. If you are some amazing judo black belt and you're watching this right now and you're thinking, wow, you didn't really put the power on him like you could have. No, I didn't. I'm trying to go really easy on this one. Sometimes in my classes, we'll just say, if you're just learning the move, you just come here and just step here and take your leg, and right now my foot's bent, and sometimes I'll just straighten my leg and just kind of knock them down. Or sometimes I'll just have them feel the technique, right? Just understand entering into the move. You don't have to throw each other every time. Every time I teach a move, I'm going to say that same thing. You don't have to throw every single time. So I can do this with a real traditional block and strike, okay? I have to step in. If I'm this far away, I'm not going to get him. I've got to step way inside, and boom, and there's the throw. Is it okay if I throw you one time?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to do this one from a grab. So this time I'm going to grab him, and my forearm is up against his sternum right now, really close. I pull him forward. Oh, there we go, for the throw. All right, so that's our basic backward throw, Oogari, the outside leg reaping throw. Deepen Taijutsu are striking techniques, and specifically for this level, we're going to have 16 secret or hidden fists of ninjutsu. And so when I think of a strike or a different fist, we oftentimes associate with fists just with like boxing or kickboxing. So in my personal martial arts academy, we do a lot of kickboxing, but I also teach a lot of traditional martial arts. And a lot of times the kickboxers come into my traditional martial arts and they're like, wow, this is so crazy because they're just used to punching like this. And I want to share something about my kickboxers. When my kickboxers have fights, whether it be a professional kickboxing fight, an amateur kickboxing match, or a professional mixed martial arts fight, their wrists are wrapped so strong that these guys could punch brick walls and not even feel it. Do you know what I'm saying? So, and where I live in the state of Wisconsin, we have a commission that's involved. And so for a mixed martial arts competition, boxing or kickboxing, the commission will sit there and watch you wrap the hands, make sure the wraps are perfect, make sure everything is correct. And man, the guys can punch anything and they're not going to feel it at all. Now in real life, that's completely different. In real life, there are many applications and reasons why we would change our hands in different positions, okay? So one thing is if I'm punching somebody in the head is very strong. I know it's very strong because I have a brain injury. I slipped and I fell and I hit the back of my head on ice and I hit it so hard, it was almost like a baseball bat coming and cracking me in the head. But I didn't even go unconscious. I was still awake through that whole thing because the skull is really, really hard. And it was designed that way to protect our brain, right? It was designed to be really hard. I think of Mike Tyson when he was in his prime at 19 years old. He was either 19 or 20 years old, heavyweight boxing champion of the world, was in an altercation. He punched some guy in the street, and Mike Tyson broke his hand punching somebody. Best fighter in the world broke his own hand. And the reason for this is because they're used to wrapping their hands. So in this curriculum that you're about to see, we're going to talk about many different strikes, and strikes how we can use our hand differently, how we can hit with this part of our hand, like a shuto. We can hit with palm strikes. We can use our fingers for like gouging and grabbing, fish hooking. So there's many different things that we can use our hands. One of the most intriguing things for me is using your hands to strike at a vital point or a weak point, especially if somebody has something like armor on, and maybe there's no protection here in the armor or no protection here. And so you know, learning to hit those specific spots are also really important. Okay, so with that, I talk way too much, super long-winded. Let's get on with our 16 secret fists. Here we go. Kikaku Ken translates to demon horn fist. What Kikaku-ken actually is a headbutt. And if you remember, when my long-winded rant that I was just talking about, different fists, I mentioned that the head's really strong. And so if you're able to take your head and hit a weak part of someone's body, and it could be using the back of your head to hit them if someone has you like in a bear hug or something like that. It could be using the front of your head. The most devastating headbutt I ever saw was probably 30 years ago in a professional mixed martial arts event. I don't know if you could call it professional, but it was a mixed martial arts event, and someone had a guy's hands pinned down. He was on top of him, and he started headbutting him and blasting him in the sternum. And I got to fix my hair after a headbutt like that. But headbutts can be absolutely devastating, and so that is our first hidden fist, the headbutt. Shuki-ken, or hand wake-up fist, is actually an elbow attack. So Shuki-ken, the elbow strike. So when you're throwing an elbow strike, you can think of a couple different things. One thing is your elbows are very sharp. Man, if you've ever been hit by an elbow, it feels totally different than getting hit by any other type of fist that I've ever felt before. It stings and it's sharp, almost like a knife hitting you. And so when I think of elbow attacks, I think of blades. So when I'm striking, I'm trying to cut above their head or cut anywhere on their head. You know that small cuts and small lacerations on your face and your head, they're pretty bad, right? There's a lot of blood and stuff like that, and they oftentimes look worse than they are. And so if you can cut someone right above the head and the blood's going to their eyes now and stuff like that, that can be pretty useful technique. Now that might sound a little brutal, but hey, it's ninjutsu, right? So here we go with our elbow attacks. Now when I throw an elbow, I also think of distancing. So maybe my opponent is too far away for me to throw any of my other type of fists. They're out of my range, they're out of my reach for any other type of hand movement. So they're very close to me. So when they're close to me, it gives me an opportunity to throw elbows. I also think that any punch that I would ever throw can become an elbow at close range. A boxer-style hook punch can be turned into an elbow at close range. A boxer-style uppercut can be turned into an elbow at close range. Okay, so it's a very close-range technique. Because it's a close-range technique, a unique thing happens in the martial arts, and that is when we hit somebody with something, oftentimes they'll hit us back with something similar. I don't know why that happens, but test the theory in light sparring and you'll find it to be true. And so if you hit somebody with an elbow, they may think to hit you back with an elbow. So when I'm throwing elbows, I'm so close, I'm always having the one hand up like this, always protecting any incoming elbows at me. Okay, so there's our elbow technique, technique number 2. So I'm actually currently working on my second book for the martial arts. My first book was on martial arts leadership, and this book is about principles in the martial arts. And I strongly believe that when you look at lots of different martial arts systems, there are certain principles that kind of tie many of the martial arts together and make the martial arts effective. One of those principles is found in this curriculum, and it's body unity, or another way to say it would be the fist and the body move as one. In Japanese, this is called Ken Taichi Jo. And again, it means the fist and the body move as one. So for this technique, and we can do this with any single technique, not only for striking techniques, but we could also do this for really probably any martial art technique. And body unity, or the fist and the body moving as one, Ken Taichi Jo, I'm going to show that today using our next punch. So our third punch is Fudoken. Fudoken is the immovable fist. This is the technique that everybody knows, or at least they kind of know it, right? So in 30 years of teaching martial arts, I've never had anyone walk into my dojo and say, "What is that? I've never seen anything like that." This is a very, instinctive, natural movement that people do. So Fudoken, we talked about this on a previous level, but basically I'm going to make a fist, and from here I'm punching with my knuckles and the fist. My hand, my wrist, my forearm, my shoulder, everything's aligned. So if I was to punch like this, it's gonna mess up my hand real fast and mess up my knuckles. So that's a Fudoken, the immovable fist. But when we're throwing a Fudoken, or really throwing any technique in the martial arts, any striking technique, we have body unity behind that technique. Meaning the power is not just in my arm muscle, but the power is coming from my legs, my hips, all the way into my fist, okay? So that's Fudoken, the immovable fist, but we also want to think of Ken Taichi Jo, that the body and the fist are in unity and move as one. Our next fist is Kiten Ken. For Kiten Ken, the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to start with the Fudoken, start making a fist. And as I go to make my strike, I'm going to open my hand and I'm going to strike like this. And you can strike different ways. You could strike down, to the side, to the outside. The way that my fist looks is I have my hands, my fingers and my thumb together, and I'm slightly rounded my hand. Almost looks like a roof, I guess, if you will, right? And I'm hitting with this part of my hand. The thing about this fist is when I strike with it, I'm starting here and I strike. As I twist, it creates a little different energy and a different feeling with the strike. So we can try that by, you can hit yourself lightly like this and try opening. You can feel the twist. You could also try that with a heavy bag, with any kind of focus mitt or target. Also, what I like about this is that, if you're hitting someone with a Fudoken with your knuckles, man, you're hitting someone in the head. If you've ever hit someone in the head before, we've talked about this before, but the head is like severely strong. The skull is really strong, and so the probability of you hurting your own hand is very likely. But with this technique, it's a lot less damaging to my own hand, and it can be very damaging to my opponent. Also, that twist at the very end of the strike, the twist there creates kind of a unique energy and a unique feeling, and can be very devastating to an opponent. So that is Kiten Ken. Shishin Ken is a finger needle fist. For this technique, we're basically using our small finger, our pinky finger. Now, we're not going to go to see I've got some heavy bags behind me there. We're not going to go to the heavy bags and start practicing our punches with our pinky finger, right? Maybe if you did some iron palm kung fu training or something like that, that might be an option for you. But what we're thinking about this technique is that when we're in the middle of a scrap, right, and we're throwing down, sometimes things get a little ugly and a little dirty. And we can take our finger after a strike and we can use that finger to like do fish hooking to the mouth or gouging to the eyes or gouging to the face or the neck. One thing that I think about this is a lot of times, because I'm a jiu-jitsu guy, so I grapple a lot. I'm constantly wrestling and grappling with my students. And so with this technique, I think that oftentimes we accidentally hit somebody with a move. Like we're training with our friend in class or our teammate, and we accidentally get them. Right? And we're always like, oh man, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that. But with many of these techniques in a life or death situation, we're purposely doing things like this. So this technique, we are using our pinky finger to do things like gouge eyes and rip the mouth and things like that. Shikan Ken is extended knuckle fist. From here, if I'm making a Fudoken, I'm gonna bring my knuckles out like this, and with my thumb bracing my fingers behind it here. And now from this position with my knuckles like this, as I strike, I may be able to impact vital areas. Maybe we have to think opponent could be wearing armor, like some kind of body armor, and so I could maybe strike underneath if there's an area under the armor, maybe the armpit, maybe underneath the chin, right? I can also start with immovable fist, Fudoken, and I can now extend my knuckles when I make the strike. When I trained Hungar Kung Fu for a long time, this was the panther fist that they used. And one thing about this fist is that as I'm striking with it, if I'm hitting something and I'm not able to keep the knuckles extended, I can switch that to a Fudoken, to a regular fist pretty easy. Boom, just like that. Okay? So that's a pretty unique fist. All these techniques can be practiced by staying loose and relaxed. Let's go on to the last one we did. Like a shuto. Shakoken looks like a claw, or to me it looks like tiger claw in Kung Fu. I have a lot of training in Chinese martial arts, and so you see this fist used all the time in many different styles of Chinese martial arts. And so for this technique, you could hit with a palm strike. A lot of times when I have my students practice these moves, I see them hitting like this with their hand, but really you want to turn that wrist back and hit with your palm. And then the claw can come in as a secondary fist. So after you hit him with a palm strike, the claw can be a ripping or a tearing or something like that. Now, I look back at my Kung Fu teacher. So my Kung Fu teacher taught me iron palm training, and so I did that for about 3 years. By the way, I did not complete the training, and I do not have any kind of crazy iron palm strength, but I learned it, and I did it for about 3 years. And you start hitting a bag. We started with a bag full of mung beans, and you hit it like this, okay? And you switch your stance while you're in there, doing this, so you're strengthening your whole body, your legs and your hands. And after you do the mung beans for a year, then you switch to rocks or pebbles, and then you switch to steel pellets. Well, the rocks and the pebbles hurt bad enough, and I never switched to the steel pellets. I never finished that training. I would say my hands felt strong while I was doing it. I was also using different kind of liniment on my hands, jiao, and different kind of oils to try to make sure I didn't get bruises and soreness in my hands. Now I've heard of stories from Takamatsu Sensei ripping off the bark of trees and things like that, and using his hands and strengthening his hands that way. And I wonder if he did that prior to going to China or not. Did he learn some of this in Chinese martial arts, or was it something he did before then? Because it's a really big thing in Chinese martial arts. I use the strike a lot for using as a palm strike and then a grip or a grab. That's how I like the strike. Shakuken, definitely one of my favorite strikes in the martial arts. The Shitoken fist looks like this, but when it's moving, it becomes Boshiken. So in this fist, you make a Fudoken, immovable fist, but you extend your thumb, and then also you can bring your first knuckle out a little bit for some extra support and stability when you punch something. And so for this strike, again, Shitoken here, Boshiken as it's moving towards its target. This strike you can use as kind of a secret strike in ninjutsu. Can be used to strike in vulnerable, vital areas, things like maybe under the armpits, or if someone has armor on or something like that and you're hitting a weak part in that armor. Can also be used for doing things like grabbing or pinching. I do have with my thumb there, I can use it to pinch. Ooh, dang it. Actually, I'll have to edit that out. It actually hurts pretty bad when you pinch like that. So this is Shitoken, or in motion, Boshiken. Shitanken is hitting with the fingertips. So in this situation, we're not thinking like we were in one of the previous moves, the tiger claw technique. It's not really a grab, but it's more of a strike with the tips of our fingers. And can be a strike with 2 fingers, with 1 finger. It can be like a flick. Now, something to think about with this technique is, once again, in Chinese martial arts, I use this a lot when someone's striking at me, and I block and then also use a finger strike to the face. So hand is in motion and I'm blocking and striking at their face at the same time. Can be a use for it. Another use could be simply just a distraction into their eyes. One thing about this I would say is, in free training, in sparring, in grappling, when we're training in a very live environment, we're always having to be so careful not to accidentally stick somebody in the eyes, right? We're always really careful of that. We're going to make sure our fingernails are trimmed really, really short, and we're going to make sure that we never stick our opponent in the eye or anything like that. We're always trying to be careful of that. So now we think of a ninjutsu curriculum that it's a very real life. There's no sport aspect involved in this. They're training for life and death. And so now you take some of those techniques and you're purposely striking at the eyes. You're purposely trying to do this. I think back for a UFC fight. It was Randy Couture versus Vitor Belfort. This was a long time. This is like maybe a 20-year-old fight, maybe 15 years. But anyways, if you ever saw the fight, Randy Couture was definitely set to win that fight. Basically, he was going to take Vitor down and ground and pound him. And Vitor took a punch at the beginning and went like this with his hands. And when he did this, it hit Randy's eye and tore his eye. It was a devastating injury, and it was an accident. So imagine trying to do these things on purpose. What a devastating fighter you would be. Okay, so there we go, the finger strike. Koppoken is the next fist. In Koppoken, I start like a Fudoken, just like a basic immovable fist, and Koppoken is the next fist. In Koppoken, I start with just a basic, regular fist or immovable fist, and I'm going to extend my knuckle here, the knuckle of my thumb. Now, in this fist, I'm going to strike this way or this way, but I'm hitting with that part of my knuckle. And I experimented with this in my martial art class, and coming here with like a ridge hand type technique, or like what you could call a reverse back fist, but then hitting with that knuckle, was devastating. Also, my hand is fairly protected and my knuckle's fairly protected because I have all of the stability and support of my other fingers and my knuckles here. It's a pretty strong technique. So I could hit upwards with it, I could hit to the side, I could hit to this side. I could even use this in a grappling situation to drive that knuckle into a pressure point to start to look for takedowns and throws. Happaken is the 8-leaf fist. And a Happaken, my hands are together like this. It almost looks like if I was going to throw like a mote shuto or something like that. And in this position here, this fist is designed to smash him like in the ears or something like that. I actually think that this is the very first technique I ever learned, and it's possible that I forgot about it up until now as I started training in this ninjutsu curriculum. And so I remember walking into a dojo when I was a really little kid, maybe like 6 or 7 years old, and I remember a technique where someone grabbed us and then we took our hands and we went to their ears. Of course, we didn't hit the ears, but we went boom to make them let go, right? Man, and that would definitely work, wouldn't it? And so in this position, my fingers are together, my hands are cupped, and from here, if someone was to grab me or attack me, there we go, I can strike them with that right to the ears. That is the 8-leaf fist, Happaken. For these next fists, we're going to be talking about 2 different ways to strike with different parts of the foot. We have Soku Yakuken and Soku Gyakuken. I know they sound almost exactly the same. So, Soku Yakuken is hitting with the heel of your foot, and Soku Gyakuken with a G, Gyaku, is hitting with the ball of your foot. Now, really what these names are is basically they're just saying the different areas of the foot that we're hitting with. But the applications of the techniques could be limitless. Okay, so panning down to my feet. Soku Yakuken is hitting with the heel of my foot. Soku Gyakuken is hitting with the ball of my foot, like this. Now, the reason we say these techniques are limitless is because really we're just showing what area of the foot we're kicking with. So whether we're saying Soku Gyakuken or Soku Yakuken, we're really just referencing what part of the foot we're striking with. So for example, we could be throwing a front kick, and that front kick could be going with the ball of the foot or with the heel of the foot, which would change the technique. It changes the way the impact feels. It might change the way I throw the kick a little bit. A favorite technique of mine is an axe kick. This is going to be kind of challenging for me to throw it because I'm a little bit old and not super flexible right now, but an axe kick, when it comes up and straight down, and when it comes up and straight down, the heel hits my opponent. And so there's an application for it. Generally, I use that technique if I've already taken an opponent down. So I've already thrown them, and I'll come at them with an axe kick with the heel of my foot before I go on to my next technique. So that's just one example, I guess I could say, of how you can differentiate these moves. Sokiken is leg wake-up fist. So Sokiken it's a knee, basically. And there's many ways that you can throw a knee to defend yourself. But what I would recommend is a couple things. First of all, I would prefer to use a knee when my opponent is out of kicking range. So instead of, if they're right in front of me and then say I hit them and I move them or I push them, then I'm throwing a kick at them because that's where that distance is. But they're literally right here where I can reach them and grab them is a great time to throw a knee. Now, throwing these knees, there's many, many different ways that you can throw a knee. The most basic way to throw a knee is the leg that's back will throw out this way. And I like to thrust my hips a bit also. Kind of like when you see throwing a punch. If I was stepping forward and throwing a punch there, I was out of frame. If I was stepping forward and throwing a punch, you notice that my back leg turned. And when my back leg turns, it allows my hip and to have more power, right? So similar with this technique, when I'm throwing a knee, my back leg, if I pivot it and thrust my knee out, I can reach. Imagine this, there's somebody right in front of me. If I try to throw a knee, I'll miss them. But if I thrust my knee, I'm going to get them. So that thruster knee is a really good one. I tell my students a lot about the car door knee. The car door knee is, let's say, I'm going to use my wife here. My wife is bringing in the groceries, and she's got her hands here like this, and she's carrying the groceries. She's going to see this video, and she's going to get mad at me, by the way. She's carrying the groceries, but she's got to close the van door, so she uses her knee to close the van door, right? And so that knee, coming to the side, Oh, my wife is pulling up in the parking lot right now. Hold on, let's watch this. Here she is. She's pulling up right now. There she is. She waved. You probably couldn't see that. My wife is really early. This is great. I'm never going to get to finish this now. Anyways, reaching out and grabbing and pulling that knee, okay? Cardboard knee, boom, like that. You can hit people in different pressure points on their legs on the knees. You can hit them in the body. You can hit them in the head. And if you've ever been hit by a knee, I want to let you know that it's brutal. It feels a lot worse than a punch. Now, knees are not just a valuable tool for standing up for self-defense, but they're devastating on the ground. So if you're on the ground with someone, you find yourself you're in the top position, like a side mount, side control, you can bring up those knees really high and smash people with those knees. So that's a really great way to throw those knees as well. So once again, that's Soki-ken, the knee strikes. The next fist, Tai-ken, is like your whole body is the fist. So what this reminds me of actually is I was training with Master Sifu Wing Lam. And Sifu Wing Lam had lineage directly back to the Shaolin temples. He was the Grand Master of Hung Gar Kung Fu. And so I was training with him, and we did a technique where I grabbed his wrists, and it was a wrist escape, but when I grabbed his wrist, he turned his wrist, and he moved at me with his whole body, and he hit me with his shoulder. I was like, whoa, and he blasted me with his shoulder. And so that is the most memorable time I have of this technique. But this technique doesn't mean you have to hit them with your shoulder. It just means you're hitting them with your whole body. So another example of this could be like a tackle, like if you're doing like a good double leg takedown and you really spear them and your whole body crushes them. Another example could be somebody fell down and you almost like a body slam fall on top of them. Now this happens sometimes on accident when we're grappling with our students. It happened to me recently. Someone went for a sweep. I kind of lost my balance. I kind of landed on them. And when I landed on them, my first thing was to say, oh man, I'm really sorry. Are you okay? But now with this technique, we're purposely trying to smash them with our whole body like that, right? So that's Tai-ken. Shizen-ken is a natural fist. Shizen, just like Shizen no Kamae is their natural stance, Shizen-ken, a natural fist. So this one is a little bit unique. This Shizen meaning natural, I don't really have a technique to demonstrate right now, but what I can say is that this is more like something feels natural in a combat situation, whether it be a training situation or maybe like a life or death situation. A good example that I can think of is I fought this dude in high school named Chris Gregory. I've been trying to get a rematch ever since. He won't give me a rematch. I fought him and he beat me. He hit me with a double leg takedown and then he smashed me from the ground. It was before I knew any jiu-jitsu. But then he had another opponent after me and I watched, and it was a good wrestler and that guy took him down. And then Chris like started biting him. And I was like, dang, dude's like biting him. It's crazy, right? It was like a high school fight and the dude like bit him like this. Like, he bit him bad, right? And so I feel like some of those like biting or grabbing or I saw a fight once where, actually I've seen this probably happen many times in fights where someone's bleeding and they take the blood and they flick it on their opponent. I never saw that do anybody any good, but it could do someone good if you like get it on them and then you come at them and smash them or something like that. So that could be an example. In my many years of martial arts, I believe that a lot of martial arts are made up of unnatural movements. And I think that does make them effective. In Ninjutsu, all of the techniques that we're gonna see that are off balancing and then doing throws or joint locks or arm bars or things like that. So it's all unnatural. It's not something where anyone's ever walked into my dojo and said, oh, I know how to do an arm bar, I know how to do a wrist lock, I know how to do this. So it's very unnatural things that you're learning in martial arts, but there is a natural primitive instinct that we still have that definitely will come out, especially in a life or death fight, right? And so Shizen-ken is that natural striking. Do the 7 blocks. So from here, first thing I'm going to do is just go through the blocks without a lot of body movement, just to show you the applications of the blocks. Then we'll add some body turning and some body unity with these. So the first one, Eli is going to strike straight at me, and all these are going to come from a straight punch. So he's going to punch straight at me. The first one is a cut punch. So cut punch, I've seen in many different martial arts, including boxing and Thai kickboxing. When that punch comes, my hand blocks, or I'm sorry, my forearm blocks his forearm, and then the punch slides through. So you can see if he's gonna hit me here, there it's gonna hit me, I move his arm off that line of attack, and I strike through. So that's a cut punch. Of course, I can do different strikes with this. Here I'm doing a tiger claw palm strike. Now, the next one is a finger strike, okay? And there's many different ways that you can strike with your fingers in martial arts to hit vital areas. But specifically on this one, we're doing a cross. Or that one was same side. We're here on same side, but in this one, it's gonna go across. When you do this, you have to be very careful with your partner. I like to put my hand that way so I don't actually go towards their eyes. The application would be at their eyes, but I'm gonna go past them so I don't actually hit them. Now, when he strikes, once again, I wanna say that there are other hidden applications to this that you'll see down the line, especially if you continue your training with me and do some private training with me. You'll see a lot of different exercises for this technique right here. So the punch comes, but for now we're going to use it as a finger strike. All right, now my next one is going to be just an outside block, which is different than the cut punch. So I'm just using my hand to block outside. So it's real simple, just an outside block. See? Now, my outside block can be a block, but it can also be a strike. So I can also strike to the outside, right? Hitting his wrist. Okay? So that's 3. Number 4 is the inside block. So when you strike me, now I can hit inside. Again, this can be a strike. So I can strike here. Notice I can come to the inside here, or I can use this side to the inside, right? This side, doesn't matter, but it's an inside block. Okay, and if I'm hitting him, here I'm hitting the nerves right there. It hurts, and if you hit them hard, it's gonna ruin their day. So don't hit your partners hard when you're just practicing with each other, okay? So now we've got number 1, the cut punch. Number 2, we have the fingertip strike. 3 is an outside block, whether I'm blocking or whether I'm doing a crushing block, which you've seen on some of the other videos. 4 is an inside block. Once again, it can be a block or I can be crushing them. So that's the inside block, okay? Now, number 5 is very similar to an outside block, but our hand is going to be in this position here like this. I call this a begging hand, and when he strikes, I turn my hand this way and my forearm deflects the strike, but this hand is coming right here to his face. It's really important that this isn't a inner block, like where my hand is trapped, because now he can trap me and continue hitting me with the other hand. So don't allow your arm to get trapped against your body, but it goes straight out like this. So that's number 5. 6 is a wing hand, and it's not a high block. So it's not this, it's not doing this move, okay? Not that there's anything wrong with a high block, but this is a deflection block. So it's here like this, it's like he's punching me hard. I feel like roll the punch and I deflect it, okay? This is used for a lot of other techniques, really cool moves coming up in the curriculum, but for now it's just a deflection. Don't do this. Do this, deflect that hand away. Again, if this punch is gonna hit me here, when I go straight in like this, it just deflects it a little bit. It just makes him miss enough to not hit me, right? So that's the deflection block. The last one is the hardest one. I saved number 7, the hardest one, for last. And we have a form coming up, the circling palm form, where you see this in that form. So if you don't master this move now, don't worry. By the time you're done with the circling hand form, then you'll have it mastered. But this one, number 7, you circle. So I'm creating a circle. This one you'll find that your hands have to be if your hands are a little higher and then they strike at you, we can have the circle. You'll see it more in the form, but the application is if I'm about to hit him and he's about to hit me, I can circle to move that away to hit him. The circling hand can be done from the inside or the outside. So if he's punching me, there's the inside, and here's the outside. Okay, now in the next video that you're going to see me and one of my other students I would say just playing around with some of these applications, and we improvise a little bit, so you might see some differences, and you'll hear me throughout this curriculum say that the martial arts are limitless, and I want you to make the martial arts your own martial art as well. So feel free to improvise and use different things. Maybe there's a block in there that I didn't do that you absolutely love to do. Maybe you like to step way off. Maybe you like to train it here and then all of a sudden step way off at a 45 or something to move back in. I've seen a lot of different things like that. So if you want to improvise a little bit, you can. But watch the next video as you watch me and one of my students kind of, I guess I'll say, playing around with this scenario here with these blocks. Okay, here we go. We're going to work on some Ninpo Taijutsu flow drills using joint lock. So joint lock flow drills. And if you stick around, I'm going to show you how to translate these techniques from standing to the ground. Okay, let's go. For technique number one, we're going to start with a traditional grip here. I'm going to remove this grip here, okay, to take that grip away from my sleeve. So I remove that first grip. Now I'm going to catch the gi, bring my hand here, and I'm going to bring the hand off of my collar. When I do this technique, I want to make sure that I'm not in range to get punched here. So from here, if I just mess around with this, I'm getting punched with that hand. Because remember, this isn't going to hurt us. Unless he's going to use that dominant hand to throw us, that's not really going to hurt us. But it's that hand that's going to hurt me, whether he has a weapon in the hand or maybe he just has his fist. So when I come here, I'm going to move at an angle so that I'm not going to get punched by that hand. I'm going to be off that angle. Now I'm going to apply my basic outside wrist lock, a mote gyaku. And from this technique, he's pretty strong, so he's gonna move his hand that way, that direction, so I can't get the lock, and I'm gonna bring my arm underneath and make the first shoulder lock. So when his arm is bent like this, I have a shoulder lock. And if I wanted to take him down from here, I'm just gonna lift up, and I'm just gonna turn in a circle. Can I take you down, Nick?
Yes, you
can. Here we go. Sometimes when I go for this lock, their arm goes straight. So now his arm's straight here, so I'm not able to get the arm to bend. No problem. Now I'm going to go for what I call the arm crush arm bar. So I'm here like this. I'm going to bring my elbow on top of his elbow. I'm going to grab my gi or my shoulder. I'm going to push down on my elbow that's on top of his elbow, and it's going to lock his arm and break his arm in this space. So there we go. That's a straight arm bar. There was straight arm bar. Now, sometimes I have the straight arm bar and he brings the arm away, like he escapes it from my head. So he's a pretty squirmy guy and he escaped. Oh, he's escaped. So now I'm right back to the wrist lock. And that's our first flow drill. So from here I have the wrist lock, he bends the arm, I come under for a bent arm bar, but if I don't get that, I get a straight arm bar. And if he removes this, here we are. You want to try one, Nick?
Sure. Here, go under, here,
Bent.
he escapes, go back to square one.
Right back. That's a good one. So that's a very basic flow drill that you can practice on your own or you can practice with your class. Now we're starting with a head tie up. Something that is a lot more practical because we live in a very grappling oriented culture right now. So a lot of guys will instantly clinch and go for head tie ups, whether they're looking for knees or whether they're looking for takedowns. We're in this head tie up. So I come here and escape. The same techniques can be done right now. So when he's here, I can come this way and I can catch his wrist and I can turn here. And then if he defends, I can come back around. I have a bent arm bar or I have a straight arm bar, just like that. It's the same move, but from the head tie up. But from that head tie up, we also have an extra option, and that's attempting a straight arm bar right away. So when I'm here and I come like this, if I want to lift his arm up, wherever the pinky finger is, that's going to be in line with his elbow. So if I bite down on his arm here and I lift his arm up this way, I have a really tight shoulder lock. We could drop into that shoulder lock too, but I don't think I want to do that right now, Nick.
Yeah, we're good.
Be careful with that if you try that one. But in actual jiu-jitsu matches a long time ago, I've applied that one. From here, if he bends his arm to escape, I'm right back into the drill we just had, right? And he bends his arm this way. Here's a bent arm bar. Here's a straight arm bar. So you see we're flowing it all together. You want to try it, Nick?
Yeah, sure.
So here we go. We're here like this. Now, oh, he's got a straight arm bar on me. He's just lifting my arm up and keeping pressure down. But if I'm strong and I bend it, he's right back. And then if I turn out of this one, the shoulder lock, straight arm bar, we're right back to where we were. Another aspect of this drill can be utilizing momentum to catch that wrist lock. Nick, you did this one really good to me. I felt it really, really good. So let's have you try it once. So from here, when he applies this here, instead of having my arm my pinky facing up, it's facing to his side. So if he pulls me, whoa, he has a lot of momentum because I have to follow or my arm's gonna break. So go ahead and do that again. So when he pulls that way, I have to follow him or it puts my elbow in a really bad position. So when I follow him, he now can apply the wrist lock back here. And if I come here, we're back to this one. And if I come here, we're back to this one, right? So we put it all together. I'm gonna apply that one on you once, Nick.
All right.
So if we're here, I can apply this way, and he has to follow me. If he doesn't follow me, his arm's gonna be in a dangerous position. One thing that we didn't work on, but I can show you guys, is if you wanna add something to that, you can make it so they can't follow you.
Oh boy.
And you can lock their arm right there. Nice, hey? And that leads us to a whole new flow drill series. But to get that series, you're gonna have to check out teamthirdheaven.com and visit our whole curriculum. That's in that curriculum. So anyways, here we go. I can stop him, or I can let him follow me and go right back to the flow drill. My opponent in the wrist lock, they may take their other hand and push their hand out to escape. Okay, so let's see that again. So I'm here. Now I'm on this side, so I can grab his wrist here. Not his wrist, but more like his knuckles, because I want to leave that spot in his wrist open. So I'm not grabbing the wrist, but I'm grabbing the knuckles, and I'm taking my forearm, and I'm putting it over the top of his arm to apply the submission hold. That's a good one, right? This one comes on fast, and it's a painful one. Here we go, just like that. Now, if I lose this position because it slips, I'm back to our other techniques. Now we're on the left side, or the opposite side. If we're here, go ahead and do that again. I might lose the position because he could take his free hand and he could push my elbow up, relieving that pressure, and then still I have to go back to my last techniques. So I'm turning the wrist out, he takes this hand, he blocks, I drive my forearm over his wrist, he pushes the elbow up, and now I'm right back to where we started. I could lock him here, I could come here, okay? Back to the shoulder lock, back to the elbow lock. Hey, we're gonna hit the ground in a minute. But before we hit the ground, we're just gonna kind of train these techniques a little bit so we can show you guys how they look in flow. And what I wanna say is when I first started Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, and when I first started Ninpo, it was very rigid and structured. And so it was very much, which is okay. You know, I'm not trying to like make fun of a whole art. I'm not doing that, but it's okay. But it was like then like we're here. And then I'll do the move to you. Very rigid and structured. But real combat is not rigid and structured like that. Real combat is flowing and it's in motion. And real self-defense happens in motion. The self-defense doesn't happen where someone just grabs you and is like, that. You know, it doesn't happen like that. It's moving. They're moving you and you're moving. It's all moving around. And so as I started practicing these techniques like this in motion, in flow drills, they started working for me in real grappling matches. And so that's why I like to teach my martial art this way. I've had some YouTube comments and they're like, this isn't authentic ninjutsu. No, this isn't authentic ninjutsu. It's way better because it actually works. So this would actually work. And I've made it work in jiu-jitsu matches. And so against someone who's actually fighting against me, right? So I like to put all these in a flow. We're gonna play around with this real quick, but coming up, I'm gonna show you how you can translate all of this to the ground. All right, you go, you throw me around a little bit. All right, I wanna go
This one. Go that way to fight me. Here. Go this way.
You go.
Ooh. A pretty start for me.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you guys how you can translate flow drills like this on the ground. Because when I train on the ground, everything goes from a step-by-step process. There's always a flow drill involved. So this is how we can translate this on the ground. It's going to be a little different because the ground is different. The ground, it immobilizes our opponent, it stabilizes their opponent. It makes the submission holds actually much easier because they can't move out of it. But because they can't move out of it, the options are oftentimes a little different as well. So we're going to do this one from the guard, okay? So I'm in the guard position. And now from here, Nick's going to use his hand to push my knee down to open my guard, which is a mistake. This isn't how you would open your guard in jiu-jitsu, but it's a common mistake that people might make. So now I have this gap here that I can feed my hand through, and I can cup his elbow, and I can turn his arm to make the shoulder lock. Now to make the shoulder lock, I'm not just going to use my arm strength, but I'm going to use my whole body. So the way that I do that is I scoot my body out, and then I bend his arm like this. I'm going to show you guys from multiple angles so you can see it, but right now my leg's up over him so he can't roll out, and I'm bending the arm. I can feel his arm already going straight. So if his arm goes straight, I then apply a straight arm bar, just like you saw before. Let's see that from a little different angle. Let's go like this. He pushes my knee, I come here, and now I have this bent arm bar like this. So I have a good bent arm bar, but if he straightens his arm, I can come up and make a straight arm bar. I call it the arm crunch arm bar. If I miss this one, from standing up, you remember we did a wrist lock. But instead of the wrist lock, I'm just going to bring my leg over his head like this. His pinky's here, and now I'm going to apply the straight arm bar. Now, to go back from the shoulder lock for that, it's not actually the basic shoulder lock because I already have my leg over. So if I'm attempting a straight arm bar and his arm bends, oh, it bent, I have a wrist lock option, or I can sit up and I can create an omoplata. That's a good one, right, Nick?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to show you, sorry buddy.
Oh, good.
So I just wanted to show you how we can apply those techniques from standing to the ground also. And I think a good martial artist should be able to apply the moves from standing on the ground. They definitely translate that way. And if you look at Ninjutsu and Japanese Jiu-Jitsu as being a predecessor of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the grappling martial arts, you should be able to take your techniques and translate them to the ground like that. And so that's something we strive to do with all of our techniques. If you want to learn more, we have complete curriculums in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, traditional martial arts such as Ninpo Taijutsu, traditional weapons at teamthirdheaven.com. I hope to see you guys there.